I am Jarrett Bailey. That is Jason Aponte, and we are two skinny dudes. Welcome in to the show. Jason, my friend, how are you?
Sunburnt and sounding tired. That's what happens when you go and you do things that are outside of talking about football. I feel like the one time that I actually decided to get some sleep, Trent Williams decides to sign overnight. This time, I decide to go to the beach, take Averly, and what happens? A massive trade happens, but I'm good. So, how are you, Jared?
I am phenomenal, my friend. Feeling good. It's been an up and up week, so yeah, feel great. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's what happens when you have a child. You miss you miss things that happen when you're out doing stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I got a chance to look at my phone, and when I look down, all of a sudden, Julio
Mhm.
Jones is on another team. So, do you want to start there before we get into the meat and potatoes of this episode?
Yeah, we might as well. And I mean, I dove into this a little bit on Twitter right away, and I hope that. Hello, Gavin. Thank you for joining us. This is Nick. Glad to see you as well. I mean, the dream. Hi, Jason and Jarrett. Hello back to you. I mean, and oh God, Jordan. Look, Jordan. We'll get to that in a minute. I promise. Um, yeah, we'll start with Julio. Julio Jones going to the Tennessee Titans, and I dove into this, pretty soon after it happened. I tweeted right away the Colts are still the best team in this division. Tennessee, the best offense. I'll give you that. But I think in terms of Tennessee as a team, they kind of did a 180 defensively what their problems were. Last year, they couldn't, get to the quarterback to save their lives. Their secondary was pretty okay. They had Desmond King, they had Adoree Jackson, they had Malcolm Butler. Now, they bring in Bud Dupree, Danico Autry, solid reinforcements to try to get that pass rush up. But then you lose all three of your top cornerbacks. And now you're relying on Caleb Farley, who I think is going to be good. Christian Fulton, the guy they took last year. Elijah Moden, a guy who they took in, I believe, the third round this year, who's probably going to be their immediate nickel starter. They're relying a lot on young guys on the back end. So that could turn out, they could gel. It's going to, regardless, there's going to be growing pains, I think, in the beginning of the year. But if it doesn't go well, it's going to be a lot of the same issues for Tennessee, where the offense, yeah, they're going to put up a lot of points, but unless you plan on winning games week in, week out, 45-40, that's not sustainable in this league. So the offense is going to be very fun. I'm excited to see A.J. Brown and Julio Jones together, along with Derrick Henry. Let's see how much he can keep up seasons like the ones that he had last year. So the offense is going to be fun. Defensively, I worry about Tennessee. And from top to bottom, I still think the Colts are the best roster in that division.
I have no complaints with anything that you said. Jumped on Eric Crocker's pod to talk about it. Said the same exact thing. I think the Colts, top to bottom, their roster is better. And honestly, when you talk about offenses, it's going to be really, really fun to watch this offense. I think that a lot of defenses are going to have to scramble to too high looks, which is only going to open up more for Derrick Henry. This offense is going to be a nightmare to try to stop. Depends on how much the carryover from what Arthur Smith did last year to what they want to do this year. I guess what's the word? I guess it's is it going to be a smooth transition from what they did last year to straight up what they did this year? I don't know if you can say that, but I have the inkling that that's what they want to do. And in terms of Tannehill, this is probably great for him. All of the play action, everything else is very accurate down the field, very efficient. This is the best receiving duo in football, hands down. And I don't want to hear any discussions about anybody. The only other discussion I will partake in or even allow right now is Evans and Godwin. After that, it is a large drop off between, whether if you want to say it's Evans and Godwin, okay, fine. I'm not going to fight you on that. I won't kill you for that. But it's a large drop off from Julio and AJ, honestly. Even Julio at 32. Basically, you've got the original version on one side, and you've got the guy who is trying to replicate that across his career. So I love it for the Titans offense, but I think that the same concerns that you have are my concerns on defense as well. Caleb Farley has to play well. Janoris Jenkins is over there. No sort of shade towards Janoris Jenkins, but you did lose all of those other guys as well. Adoree Jackson, Desmond King, like you talked about. So now, like you said, it's almost like they're trying to flip. Hey, we couldn't pass rush last year, so let's try to pass rush and let's try to cover up on the back end. So they're trying to do what they can within the draft, within free agency. And they lost a ton on offense. No Jonnu Smith, no Corey Davis. Anthony Ferkser is going to be their tight end this year. It's literally going to be AJ, Julio, Josh Reynolds of Rams fame, Des Kirkpatrick, and then just pretty much the Derrick Henry show. Derrick Henry probably is still going to lead this league in rushing, such as life, as long as Derrick Henry gets the ball 15, 20 times per game, every game, without missing any games. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, but I agree with you. I think the Colts are the best team in this division.
And the thing with that, though, too, is that, this isn't me hoping anything bad happens to Derrick Henry, but what happens if he does go down? They don't really have anybody behind him, and that offense, for the vast majority of the past 3 to 4 years, has ran solely through Derrick Henry being able to set up play action through that. So, yes, getting Julio Jones, that's going to hopefully take a little bit of, the edge off of Derrick Henry and take a lot of the pressure off him to really produce as much as he has. But if they keep trying to go back to the well, I mean, how much more of this can he really do? I don't think we're going to see another 2,000-yard season from Derrick Henry. I think we've seen the best of Derrick Henry. That's not to say he still can't be great, but we know the shelf life of running backs being great in this league as of recent memory. Now, Derrick Henry is a different animal. I get that. I still think he's got a few good years left in him. But, if he goes down and something happens, they're going to have to really rely a lot on Tannehill in the passing game. And can he do that? We don't really know. He hasn't really been asked to do that. So it'll be interesting to see. But, hopefully, like I said, I don't want anything bad to happen to Derrick Henry. I'm just saying, how much more of this can he really do and to really help set up that play action that's been so successful the past couple of years?
And it's very possible that he could take a step down from 2,000 yards and still lead the league in rushing.
Yeah.
A 1,700 yards to get it done. So, honestly, yeah, man. I could see him still leading the league in rushing and still taking a step back. Very possible. But, yes, it seems like that's what Tennessee wants to do. They want to replicate all those things. So, yeah, man.
I think that they're going to be a fun offense to watch. I think that's pretty evident. I mean, you got Julio Jones, A.J. Brown, and Derrick Henry all in the same offense. Dylan Redunce is coming in to help protect Ryan Tannehill. Lawan's coming back. They're going to have run lanes. So it's not as if this is going to be a slow offense. They're going to put up points. It's just a matter of, okay, can that secondary gel? Can they come into their own early on in the season? Because they have a brutal midseason stretch where they play Buffalo, Kansas City, the Rams, and I want to say the Chargers. So those are 4 straight games that, realistically they could lose all 4. Do I think they're going to lose all 4? No. But it's not going to be an easy stretch, especially if the secondary isn't gelling. So it'll be an interesting thing to see whether, they can take a little bit of the load off Derrick Henry now that Julio Jones is there. Going from Corey Davis to Julio Jones is quite an upgrade. But like you said, there's not really a lot of depth behind them. It's Josh Reynolds. It's Racey McMath. It's there's not a whole lot behind them right now. Plus, Johnny Smith isn't there. So, I mean, we'll see. Titans Twitter and I have an interesting relationship. I love interacting with them, and they all.
I was going to ask you. They usually. So, I mean, how many official Twitter fan bases can you piss off in the same year?
I mean, here's the thing. Titans Twitter got on my ass last year because I predicted them to go, I want to say 6-10 in my final rankings. And throughout the year, I mean, they didn't forget. And that's why I love interacting with Titans fans, because they're so fun to kind of bring up those receipts. Because I'm the same way. I bring up receipts when I'm right, and that's fine. And I loved it. So I think that there's kind of a love-hate relationship there where I'd like to think that they like me a little bit and like that I'm always in the conversation. But at the same time, and I go on Tennessee radio shows. I'm going on one on Tuesday to talk about this. So there's going to be there will be more conversations to be had. But no, I love interacting with Titans fans because they're not afraid to speak their minds. They'll tell me how they feel about me. But no, I don't take it personally. I think it's just fun interacting with them. And yeah, Titans Twitter knows who I am.
So real quick before we move on to why we're here and what you've been getting yelled at all day about, what fan base have you pissed off the most? Titans Twitter, Ravens Twitter, 49ers Twitter.
I think 49ers Twitter has kind of accepted me. So I'd like to think that was just a mulligan. But no, Ravens Twitter, I mean, for the most part, they just stop caring about what I say because they know what I'm going to say.
Because they know you're just going to say something bad about Lamar Jackson?
Pretty much. Yeah, Titans Twitter, I think, is the one that interact with me the most whenever they feel like they have something to say. So I think I piss them off the most. But like I said before, I don't hate Titans Twitter. I think they're a fun bunch of people. They make a lot of bets with me throughout the year. So, no, I think that it's probably Titans Twitter, the 49ers Twitter for that one thing, and then Baltimore Twitter. But for
that one thing of putting Joe Montana 4th on your all-time quarterback list, that's the one.
That's the one. But no, recently we're gonna get into it with the list, obviously.
Yeah.
A lot of Jalen Hurts stands in my mentions today.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask you about that because I mean, and we might as well, I'll pull it up here to the side just so you can see it. So Jared today decided to unleash his top 35 quarterbacks in the league. Okay. So what I will do is I will put this up on the screen so you guys can take a look and we can discuss. Okay. So let me pull this up. Boom. All right. Let me make this bigger.
Oh, that was a seamless transition.
You guys see that? All right. So you want to start at 35 with Jalen Hurts?
We can. We might as well.
Right. Well, so I think we should work our way back through because I don't think that
that's fine.
Too many people aren't going to really have an argument with your top 3. And then after that is where the discussions will come in. But let's start with Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts is a broke man's Lamar Jackson in all the worst ways. Look at his passing numbers last year. He completed 52% of his balls, and I get everybody's going, well, who is he throwing to, Jarrett? He is so inconsistent when passing the ball. And again, I want to point this out ahead of all this because anybody who follows me knows I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong. Jalen Hurts could very well climb this list exponentially throughout the year, and I will be the first to come out and say I was wrong about Jalen Hurts, and I'm going to get to it with a quarterback that I was wrong about here in a little bit. But Jalen Hurts, yes, he's good with his legs, and that's great. And they won games when he was in there.
Right.
But if you go back and watch the Saints game, it was predominantly the run game. You go back and watch. Now, he played well against Arizona. I'll give him that as well. But I'm going to pull something that Matt Verderame taught me a while ago, and it's that you can go through any game, find a small handful of plays that quarterbacks make that make them look great. It's what they do in between that kind of tells you who they are. Jalen Hurts right now, he's not a consistent thrower. He's not a consistently accurate thrower. He's mostly just a mobile quarterback that is fun to watch. He can make plays with his legs, and that's fine. Nothing that he's shown me so far has made me think that he is a long-term starter. And again, he could prove me wrong, and I'll be the first to come on and admit it that I was wrong because that's part of this business is being wrong when doing lists like this. So, no. As of right now, Jalen Hurts has done nothing to show me that he's a franchise quarterback. And when you look, and I doubled down on this too because a lot of Jalen Hurts stands were in my Twitter mentions. So I doubled down on it too. The Eagles might win 5 games this year. I would be shocked if they got more than 6. I don't think they're going to have a good year. And
I agree with that.
So I just don't see Jalen Hurts as a long-term starter. I think he's a fun player. I just don't think that he is a long-term answer in this league, especially because, we've seen it throughout history. Quarterbacks who are predominantly run first and not the greatest throwers don't win long-term. Yes, Tim Tebow won a bunch of games back in, 2011? He did a lot of that while completing less than 10 passes in games. And then look what happened after that. He was predominantly a backup, left the game, and now is getting another chance to play tight end 8 years later. We're not going to talk about that. No. Even Robert Griffin III had a great rookie year, and then what happened? He got hurt, was never the same after, and now he's a backup. Lamar Jackson had a great MVP year, and he's gotten progressively worse since that happened because defenses realized let's just send the house on 1st and 2nd down, make him throw in 3rd and long, and we're going to be fine. It's not to say that these guys aren't talented because they are, obviously. It's just a matter of playing the quarterback position in the NFL. You got to be able to make plays with your arm, especially if there's a situation you're down 5, 2 minutes left in the 4th quarter. I'm not confident that Jalen Hurts can win me that game. So he's 35. I don't really have a qualm about it. Like I said, you can prove me wrong right now. I've got no problems with putting him there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the discussion starts with me here, with Jalen Hurts and somebody like Gardner Minshew at 27. So, I mean, Gardner Minshew's not going to be a starter anywhere in this league at all. We know that Jalen Hurts is going to start.
Oh, I'm about to go off.
Yeah, I want to hear your rationale on this part. So talk to me because Gardner Minshew's ahead of a few people that I feel personally offended by, but I also want to hear your reasoning for it.
All right, Gardner Minshew, dare I say, is incredibly, incredibly underrated. Jacksonville was giving us Jake Luton down the stretch because they knew that Gardner Minshew gave them a chance to win games. They almost started off 2-0 because of Gardner Minshew. He won them the game against Indianapolis, almost pulled a comeback out of his butt to beat Tennessee in week 2, and then Jacksonville realized, oh, crap, he's kind of good. Let's fake an injury we're going to prolong a little bit. Sure, his thumb might be hurt, but let's put him out for 3 months. That way we don't win. We'll give him Jake Luton. Gardner Minshew, when given the chance, is, I want to say, kind of like a more reserved Ryan Fitzpatrick, where he's not going to turn the ball over and make boneheaded plays like Fitz does, but he's going to make plays that will make you wonder, all right, how the hell did he do that? I think Gardner Minshew, if a top, a team with playoff hopes has a quarterback go down and they need somebody who they think can carry them to a playoff spot, would not be surprised whatsoever if they call Jacksonville and try to get Gardner Minshew, because the dude with help around him can play. So I've got no problem putting Gardner Minshew there. And I do want to address this because, yes, I did include rookies in this list. I wanted to stay true to my rookie rankings because I had Trevor 1, had Zach Wilson 2, Trey Lance 3, Justin Fields 4. It became hard to kind of find out where to place all of them. Looking back on it now, I probably should have maybe put asterisks next to them because I think Justin Fields is going to climb up this list very quickly. Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, all of them are going to climb as guys like maybe Matt Ryan, Derek Carr, Ben kind of slide down. I think they're going to keep climbing up to take those spots. So, yes, don't be too focused on, a Justin Fields or a Trey Lance. It's just it became hard to kind of figure out where to put them because I did include rookies in this list. But all of them are going to climb exponentially. So no, 49ers fans, not hating on Trey Lance, love Trey Lance. Bears fans, love Justin Fields. I think they're both going to do great things. Just as of right now, it was kind of hard to kind of find out the perfect place to put them. Again, I probably should put some little asterisk explaining that ahead of time. But yes, that's my pitch for Gardner Minshew. Love Gardner Minshew. I feel like if a team with playoff hopes loses their quarterback and they get a guy like Gardner Minshew, he can be suitable enough to get them to the playoffs.
Okay, so I think that I have less of an issue with any of those things because, yes, they are rookies, Trey Lance, Justin Fields. I definitely, certainly, 100% believe that Justin Fields is better than Gardner Minshew.
Yes,
He's never taken a snap or anything like that.
Exactly.
I think my issue comes in with your 32nd quarterback behind.
Here we go.
Jarrett, how much better is Gardner Minshew than Cam Newton, dude? I mean, look, I understand your issues with Cam Newton have been documented.
Yep.
We know that. We know where you're coming from with that. For me, it just feels Cam's being disrespected a little bit on this list, especially when you talk about, okay, Drew Lock. Gardner Minshew is the one that jumps out, okay? Because if you want to say right now today Daniel Jones is a better quarterback than Cam Newton, I don't agree with that, but I can see the argument. Same goes for everybody pretty much that's ahead of Daniel Jones. Mm-hmm. That Gardner Minshew one is the one that's kind of bothering me. And then Drew Lock, man. Like, put it like this. You have the two Denver Bronco quarterbacks back to back because you don't know which one of them is going to start. And
no idea.
Yeah, exactly. So they're similarly tiered. And you got Cam at 32. That's the part where I'm going to push back a little bit. Look, that's man. Fine. I mean, last year, clear as day, Cam has never really been accurate, even in his years of MVP time. But, we talked about it. This team won 7 games somehow with Cam Newton, man. And if that surgery has anything to help him with and all these new weapons, I think that you'll see a little bit more from Cam. I think that having Gardner Minshew over Cam is the part where I get a little iffy. Again, over Trey, over Justin Fields, that's fine because they've never taken a snap yet. And you're talking about right now. Okay, so even if I don't agree with that, I kind of understand the reasoning. The Cam thing is where I got to push back a little bit because I just feel like he's going to play better because he has to. That's just how good he is. I mean, even at 1, 2, and he's clearly a shell of the former player that he was, especially because of his play style. But yeah, the Cam Newton one, that one doesn't really jive with me. Talk to me a little bit more about that.
So I'm going to use one of your arguments against you here. So
damn it. Don't do that. I hate this. I hate it.
So when we talk about head coaches, you always come back to John Gruden and how a Super Bowl ring from so long ago, we put on these glasses and think that he's a great coach. We put on the same glasses for Cam Newton for one very good season that is a complete outlier from the rest of his seasons.
Okay.
And make him out to be a great quarterback. Cam Newton has had one incredible season. Even then, completed less than 60% of his passes that year, I'm going to point out. Cam Newton is a physical specimen. He is unlike anything we've ever seen in the NFL at the quarterback position in terms of size and speed, ability to run the ball. He is an absolute freak of nature. He is not a good NFL quarterback anymore. 2015 Cam, obviously he'd be higher up this list. I feel like the same thing that we do for John Gruden is what a lot of people do for Cam Newton. They remember that 2015 season and how incredible he was that year, the 15-1 record, and they remember all of that. Cam Newton last year was abysmal. Cam Newton last year was not good. Cam Newton right now I don't think that he is a he is a very low-tiered starting quarterback if he is one. Nothing last year outside of the Seattle game showed me anything, and that was when Seattle was the worst defense in football by a large margin. Mm-hmm. So Cam Newton, to me, is somebody that we have nostalgia for because, you know, a lot of us, especially guys my age, we grew up watching Cam Newton and him running around in Carolina making all these fun plays. That's not who he is anymore. He can't throw the ball downfield. He can't throw accurately. Cam Newton, to me, I think that I think I've already said it pretty well. It's a nostalgia factor. We like Cam because of the memories we had with Cam. Similar to the way that we put on the glasses for John Gruden, letting 1 year kind of mask his overall legacy. Cam Newton, the MVP year, a very big outlier year in his career. So I think that, to me, I feel like that's a fine spot for him. Now, in terms of Gardner Minshew being ahead of him, obviously I don't have a problem with it because I ranked him ahead of him. I think that Gardner right now has a better arm. Gardner is more accurate. Gardner is somebody who I would trust more in terms of if I need a big play with someone's arm, I would trust Gardner more than Cam Newton. So, like I said, Gardner to me is underrated, so obviously I'm showing him a lot of love, and I think Cam is very overrated, so that's why he's lower on the list. But Cam is, I mean, you said it yourself, Cam is a shell of his former self. Yes, he had a lot of rushing touchdowns last year, but how many of them were from inside the 10 or whatever? You know, he's a big dude. Obviously, that's going to play a factor into him being able to get into the end zone. So I think that you look at 8 touchdowns to 10 interceptions last year, didn't have a lot of success throwing the ball, and you can point to the lack of weapons and whatever. You can factor that in, sure. Regardless, you know, Cam Newton is by no means, to me, an upper echelon quarterback. I think that, you know, right now he's just a bridge waiting for Mac Jones to cross it. So I've got no problem putting Cam there.
I'm glad that you said that because suspiciously, Mac Jones is not here on this list. Yeah. Justin Fields is. So you basically are saying Justin Fields is going to start week 1, which is what I believe. If you're Matt Nagy, no time to mess around with the red rifle. Get in there and get your guy out there. And you have Trey and Jimmy on there as well too. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to talk to you about that a little bit more. Where would Andy Dalton or Mac Jones, or better yet, where would Mac Jones be on this list?
Well, I'll say this: making the list, Andy Dalton was 36. I had
36.
Yeah, I don't know where I'm going to put Mac Jones. I really don't.
Would you put him over Jalen Hurts?
No, I would not.
Oh, okay.
If you know. Jalen Hurts, I think in just terms of, you know, the fact that, I don't know, just, you know, said that he was a mobile quarterback first, but I think that does factor into him being a little bit ahead of Mac Jones right now. Mac Jones has a better arm than Jalen Hurts. I don't think that's too debatable. I mean, Mac is accurate. You know, for as much as we've talked about Mac Jones over the past few months, you know, we've watched Mac Jones play. I'm not going to take away from his accuracy. I'm not going to take away from his decision-making. And like I said, Mac Jones isn't on the list. He could very well climb. I could be proven wrong there too. But sticking true to my quarterback rankings going into the draft and after the draft, it would feel weird of me if I were to have, you know, somebody like Justin Fields ahead of Zach Wilson when, you know, I've been preaching and smacking the table at Zach Wilson's QB2. You know, I feel like I can't really turn my back on that. So Mac Jones, I don't know where he is, man. I mean, is he better than Mason Rudolph right now? Is he better than, I'm trying to think, Blake Bortles, right? I don't know. And it's now the fit, I think, in New England, I think that's probably the best fit for him because, you know, he just seems like a Belichick type quarterback. So it could turn out well, and he could climb up this list, and we'll see what happens. But I didn't feel the need to put him on there. You know, like I said, he was my quarterback with 5 coming into this. So the 4 rookies who we talked about the most did make the list. Mac Jones did not.
Well, let me talk to you about this part, and then we'll move on to the next tier. Tua Tagovailoa, 28th. Trey Lance, 29th. Talk to me there, at least about what you think about Tua. What you think of, and it from here, what it looks like on your list, you got Jimmy Garoppolo starting week 1, so that's another reason that you have Trey Lance lower on this list is because he's not starting, right? And I think that if you put Drew Lock and Teddy there, then I think you expect Drew Lock to start, right? You think that he's going to come out and win that job, or it's just between the two of them, that's who you'd rather have?
I think it's a combination of both. I think that both Drew and Jimmy will be on short leashes. I think that we'll see Teddy Bridgewater at some point this season. I think we'll see Trey Lance at some point this season. Tua, to me, I don't want to bail on Tua quite yet. He was thrown in there unexpectedly when Fitz was playing well and the Dolphins were winning. And he did have moments of excellence. The game against Arizona, he played really well. Other than that, he looked very gun-shy. The game against the Rams, I mean, the reason that they won that was because Jared Goff kept giving the ball to the Dolphins. So, you know, Tua didn't really have a great game
The Rams game.
Yeah. So to me, I don't want to bail completely on Tua, but he's got a lot to prove this coming year. He needs to take more chances downfield. He needs to throw the ball downfield, period. I mean, he didn't throw the ball a lot downfield last year. So I'd like to see him do more of that because you saw him do it at Alabama. He's capable of doing it. He's got an accurate arm. I think a lot of it was just growing pains. I think a full offseason with newer weapons, they bring in Will Fuller, they bring in Jalen Waddle. Devontae Parker will be back. Mike Gesicki will be back. So, I mean, he's got a decent core of weapons, a full offseason. I would like to think he'll climb up this list. But if he stays stagnant, I mean, Miami's got to be left kind of wondering, all right, what are we going to do here? Because, this is we've got a great team around him, but we're kind of in win now mode. And if he can't, then they're going to have a decision to make. So I'd like to think that he'll get better. But we'll see. Trey Lance, like I said, for the rookies, it was more so just keeping them in the same rankings in which I had them. Trey Lance, I think he will play at some point. I do think Jimmy will be the week 1 starter. That just makes the most sense for San Francisco right now. There's no need to try to throw Trey Lance into the fire right away. If Jimmy starts playing bad and you feel like Trey is ready, then by all means, put him in. So I do think Jimmy will be the week 1 starter. I mean, you know how I feel about Jimmy Garoppolo. He's probably a little bit below average starting quarterback in this league. Doesn't really have a big arm. Accuracy can kind of be sometimes a little bit inconsistent. Decision-making can kind of be off at times. So I do think Jimmy will start week 1. I think Drew Lock will start week 1. I think both of them are going to be on short leashes.
Perfect. This is what's going to lead me into the next point, and he's in this next group. 26, Daniel Jones. 25, Jared Goff. 24, Jimmy Garoppolo. 23, Zach Wilson. 22, Ryan Fitzpatrick. 21, Sam Darnold. I'm interested to get your thoughts on, and I think that Daniel Jones actually takes a step up this list this year. You can go ahead and kill me. I think by the end of this year, you'll probably see him on this list a little bit higher. Probably
I agree.
Jumping over Ryan Fitzpatrick. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's my bold prediction. 24 and 25 is really interesting to me. Jimmy Garoppolo gets a lot of, praise for 2019. How many games he's won as a starter. Now we know his availability is the question. Jared Goff has many more wins than Jimmy Garoppolo. Many more. But he never gets that thrown on him. So for the QB wins crowd on your side with Jimmy Garoppolo,
yeah,
why doesn't that apply to Jared Goff in the same way? They went to a Super Bowl and didn't win.
Yeah.
They win 10, 11, 12 games every year that Jared Goff has been there with Sean McVay, basically.
Yep.
What's the difference between Jimmy Garoppolo and Jared Goff, Jared?
It doesn't support their argument.
Doesn't fit my narrative.
Yep. So the thing with Jared Goff is, one, he's got a better arm than Jimmy Garoppolo does. I don't think that's really debatable. Mm-hmm. Jared Goff, and I feel bad for Jared Goff because he kind of faces the same problem sometimes. He's inconsistent. When he's on one, he's on one. When he's down, it's not good. We saw that last year against Seattle in the playoff game whenever he came in for, why can't I remember the name of the quarterback that got hurt?
Wofford.
Wofford. Yeah. So when he came in, it wasn't pretty at all. And even down the stretch, Jared Goff was showing signs like he did not play well. But when he was playing well, he was playing damn good. So it's just a consistency thing for Jared Goff. And now he's going to Detroit where they've just completely remade this roster. He doesn't have a lot of weapons. Now, DeAndre Swift is good. Jamal Williams is good. They're going to have a good backfield. Their offensive line's good. So it looks like they're almost going to be a run-first team in Detroit, which is something they haven't been able to say since Matthew Stafford was there, or since he got there in 2009. So for me, it's, giving him a run game is great. They gave him Penny Sewell to get some protection along with Frank Ragnow. They're going to have a damn good offensive line. It's just a matter of who's he throwing the ball to. And that's going to be the biggest thing. I believe they got Amon-Ra St. Brown out of USC in the draft. So, I mean, that's a solid target.
Tyrell Williams is there as well. Hawkinson.
And then Quintus Cephas is still there. So, I mean, it's kind of, a very big prove-it type receiving core. We know how good TJ Hawkinson is at tight end. But I'm interested to see how Jared Goff does this year. I'm rooting for Jared Goff this year. I want him to do well. Would like to see him climb the list, but, based off his play down the stretch last season, it doesn't really martyr a higher ranking than where he's at. But, yeah, I mean, you mentioned the thing with, the wins and everything, and I'm going to pull up a tweet right now that I told you about before the show even started because it made me laugh. And the quarterback wins crowd is just an interesting crowd to be a part of, isn't it? So,
see, and this is the part that I wanted to ask you about. So a lot of what Jared Goff has accomplished in this league is thrown at the feet of Sean McVay. Rightfully so, in my opinion. With Jimmy Garoppolo, it's not about Kyle Shanahan. It's about Jimmy Garoppolo.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part that kind of is off for me when I see these arguments go up. You can't in one breath tell me that a guy who has led his team 10, 12 wins pretty much every year that he's been the head coach. And on the other side, when you compare Jimmy Garoppolo to the backup quarterbacks and how little they win, Jared Goff's been on the field. Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't. So using Jimmy Garoppolo's wins over C.J. Beathard and Nick Mullins, it doesn't really prove much to me.
Yep.
My question is, Jared Goff's success is all Sean McVay. With Jimmy Garoppolo, I feel like nobody ever says that has anything to do with Kyle Shanahan and at all. It's the same sort of thing, right? You know, like Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't win that many games in 2019 without Kyle Shanahan.
Right.
And that's the part that is that it loses me at times with 49er fans. How can you in one breath tell me that a coach is responsible for someone else's entire success in this league, even if he was a number one pick, and then tell me that it's the other way around and it's just no. This quarterback who's accomplished basically what Jared Goff has, one season without as many wins and as many games played. No. That has nothing to do with the coach. That's more Jimmy Garoppolo. So I think that's my part with it. It's the QB wins thing doesn't go both ways. QB wins for Jimmy Garoppolo are worth this much. QB wins with Jared Goff are worth this much. But it doesn't make sense because both coaches have put them in position to win games. Any thoughts on that?
It's annoying because when you look at the way that both quarterbacks have been used, I mean, it's been a run-heavy, defensive-first type thing in San Francisco where they've had good defenses and incredible run games, and Jimmy Garoppolo's kind of taken a back seat. We can say that Sean McVay is largely responsible for the Rams' success, but Jared Goff's the one throwing the ball, and they are very much, or when Jared Goff was there, were very, very much a pass-first team. So it did come down to a lot of Jared Goff's decision-making as well, and we can give a lot of the credit to Sean McVay. He deserves it. But, I think Jared Goff deserves a lot more credit than what he does get. And I think that Jimmy Garoppolo deserves a lot less credit than what 49ers or Jimmy Garoppolo stands like to give him. And it's just one of those things that I've never understood either. And that kind of brings me into this where somebody on Twitter says, and I quote, Jimmy beat Rodgers badly twice on the biggest stage, and Wilson, Stafford, Murray, Cousins, and Breeze for good measure, yet he's 24th and behind rookies that never took a single snap in the NFL. What a joke, 2 exclamation points. So,
for the record, I agree with you that Jimmy Garoppolo is better than Jared Goff. I just find it funny how the arguments change for each of them, as if there's this like massive gap between Jimmy Garoppolo and Jared Goff, where it's like, if you listen to certain people tell you Jimmy Garoppolo is literally the equivalent of, let's say, on your list, number 4, Deshaun Watson, and Jared Goff is 25.
Yeah.
That's not the gap. That's what I'm talking about, I think. That's not the gap between the both of them. 49er fans can trick themselves into believing whatever they want. The gap is not that large. You want to say Jimmy's better than Goff? I'm with you. I hear you. I'll even run with that. The gap isn't that large. So don't when I see it all the time on Twitter, oh my God, how could you even compare? Same quarterback, same sort of deal, same sort of things that they were asked to do. It's too close for you to even say that there's this large gap. There is no large gap. Jimmy Garoppolo is better than Jared Goff, but it's much closer than people want to say.
And for me, it's not really a gap at all. Like if I could make these guys the same exact number, I would have. It was just a matter of hairs. And honestly, it kind of goes back and forth with me. Some days I'm going to say, all right, Jared Goff might be better than Jimmy Garoppolo. And other days, for this list, I was like, maybe Jimmy's a little bit better. All time, the past 3 years, I think it's pretty evident that Jared Goff's been the better quarterback in terms of his production. Yeah, exactly. So it is interesting to see, those two arguments never seem to match up, do they? But the thing with saying, he beat Rodgers, he beat Breeze. Okay, the NFC Championship game from 2019, which I assume he's referring to, Jimmy Garoppolo threw 8 passes that game. And I believe 49ers ran from north of 200 yards and only allowed Green Bay to score 8 points. That's not Jimmy Garoppolo playing defense. Not Jimmy Garoppolo running the ball. It's Jimmy Garoppolo handing the ball to Raheem Mostert. That's Nick Bosa being a nuisance. That's the secondary being a nuisance to Aaron Rodgers. That's the Packers turning the ball over. Jimmy Garoppolo happily took a back seat, handed the ball off, and watched the 49ers win the game. So, yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo was the starting quarterback while they won. Jimmy Garoppolo didn't win that game. So I pray for you if you think that Jimmy Garoppolo is better than Aaron Rodgers, and for that matter, Kirk Cousins, Drew Brees, and any of the other quarterbacks that you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, like I said, you're not going to get any arguments out of me that Jimmy's better than Goff. You have him on the list like that. You got Goff at 25, you got Jimmy Garoppolo 24. I think the gap is that close. It really is, like one back to back. Now you're going to see what Jared Goff is really made of now being in Detroit. God help him with that coaching staff that's going to be over there. You know, if he struggles now, then Sean McVay deserves all his flowers, which he does at this point now. And if you haven't given it to him, that's your business. That's just something that you've got to deal with on your own. But Sean McVay always put Jared Goff in the right spots, always. Literally talked to him while the mic was about to cut off at 10 seconds, telling him pressure from this side, pressure from this side. Sean McVay doesn't do anything but sit on the sideline and dial up plays. He doesn't look at the defense, none of that. So I just want Sean McVay to get his flowers for Jared Goff, but you need to make sure that these arguments are on par. So let's just keep moving, though, because we spent a lot of time on this. Zach Wilson, Ryan Fitzpatrick. So you got Zach Wilson, 23, Ryan Fitzpatrick, 22, 21, Sam Darnold, and Trevor Lawrence, 20. Talk to me about the two rookies on here and why they should be higher than anybody else, even though they've never taken a snap.
So for me, when I was doing this, and like I said, it was kind of difficult to find where to put these guys. But for me, it's all right. I've got to build a team, for one season, and that being the 2021 season. Am I really going to take Jimmy Garoppolo over Trevor Lawrence? Probably not. Am I really going to take Jimmy Garoppolo over Zach Wilson? Probably not. Look, you know how much I love Zach Wilson. I think Zach Wilson's going to be in the top 15 by the end of this year. I love Zach Wilson. He's going to be fantastic. So for me, kind of placing them in there, and like I said earlier, staying true to my original rankings, I feel like putting Trevor 20 is fair. I mean, I think it's fair to say he's got the smallest amount of bust potential among these guys. I feel like he's going to be fantastic. So I think putting him kind of right in the middle here, or a little bit behind the middle, I think is fair. So I don't have a problem putting Trevor there. I think he's going to be great. He's going to climb this list. Like I said, while these older quarterbacks start to dwindle down, they're going to kind of take those spots and continue climbing. Sam Darnold, you know how much I love Sam Darnold, and you know how much I'm ready for the Sam Darnold revenge tour in Carolina. People forget that since Sam Darnold was drafted, the Jets failed to win a game with anybody else as a starting quarterback. That's how important he was to the New York Jets. So we look at the year 2019, I believe. Sam Darnold gets mono early in the year. They go to Sure. They go to Trevor Siemian, who gets his leg ripped backwards by Myles Garrett.
Disgusting.
I couldn't tell you who they had after Trevor Siemian. Sam Darnold comes back, plays well. They go 7-6 with him as the starter. He comes back. That
wasn't Flacco, right?
No, Flacco was last year.
Okay, so the year before that, God, what was that kid's name? He played Philly. I'm gonna look it up while you talk, but I'm gonna find his name. Honestly, it was awful.
Yeah, definitely do that because it's gonna bother me who it was too. But the thing with Sam Darnold is that he was before the abysmal dumpster fire that was last year and Adam Gase being exposed for the god awful head coach that he is. Sam Darnold, I mean, he was incredibly important to the Jets and what they did offensively. And I'm not saying that this is me saying that wins are a quarterback stat, but you look at the games that Sam Darnold played over his Jets tenure. Luke Falk, that's who it was, yes. So you look at the games that he played or he didn't play in his tenure in New York compared to the games he did play, the difference is astronomical. So Sam Darnold, to me, has never been given a fair shot in this league. And I'm ready to see him with a full repertoire of weapons, a good head coach, young up-and-coming defense. It's going to be fun to watch this year in Carolina. I don't think they'll be a playoff team, but I think they'll be playing meaningful football in December. So Sam Darnold's about to go off and have a really good year. I'm excited to see it. I put Fitzpatrick 22. Ryan Fitzpatrick showed us last year, yeah, he's still good at football. He is going to make those decisions that you're like, oh, why would you do that? He's a typical gunslinger. He's going to blow your mind, and he's going to make you want to blow your mind out. Like, there are two different ends of the spectrum with Ryan Fitzpatrick. But putting him in an offense, this might be the most talented team Ryan Fitzpatrick's ever been on, and that's saying a lot because he's played for about 7,972 teams. So you look at what they put around him. I mean, Terry McLaurin's there. They bring in Samuel. Another guy, Antonio Gandy Golden, who they drafted last year, who I hope that they use more. Diami Brown they drafted this year. Defensively, they're among the top 5 teams defensively in football. I think that Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be good enough to help the Washington football team win the NFC East. And I'm excited to see it.
I'm with you there.
Yeah. So I think that addresses 23 through 20.
So with 21, with Sam Darnold, I agree with you. Spread offense. He's got an up and coming coach who is very exciting. Has different ways to attack.
Joe Brady is the passing game coordinator.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like the passing game is going to be so much better. You're talking about, and I talked about this on Croc's podcast about wide receivers. You're talking about DJ Moore possibly moving full time to the slot.
R.I.P.
God help slot corners everywhere, because I you know what? I think I'm just going to do a straight up pod about DJ Moore and why everybody is sleeping too low, does not talk about him in the same way that they should be talking about any of these receivers that have been out here. Think about this. 23 years old, 1,000 yards every year he's been in the league, if I'm not mistaken. And then if you look at his quarterbacks, remember the first year was Kyle Allen. Ugh. Remember Cam didn't even, last year it was Teddy. And if you look at the film from last year, there were so many plays left on the field for DJ Moore, honestly. He led the league in reception or yards per reception. And that includes Justin Jefferson, who set the record for a rookie wide receiver. So yes, I think that, you talk about DJ Moore, you talk about Robbie Anderson, you talk about this passing offense. I think Sam Darnold is in the perfect position to win. This wasn't Carolina's first plan. It wasn't, because after the 49ers moved up to 3, that kind of wrecked any idea that they had of whatever they wanted to do if they were in any sort of trade up, because 3 is where you had to go. There's no way that there's no way that Atlanta is going to trade back with Carolina so they can get their guy. Yeah, that's not going to happen. So honestly, I see the Sam Darnold thing really going well. Here's the part. Sam Darnold 21, Trevor Lawrence 20. Now talk to me about that one, because again, Trevor Lawrence, I understand. We all have him on a trajectory to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. That's why he was taken number 1. That's why he's been pretty much the consensus number 1 quarterback since he was out of birth, right? Yeah. Like his first day out the womb, they were already like, yo, QB1 moving forward. Like you already knew, right? With Trevor Lawrence, that's pretty much how it's been. Talk to me about that, and a little bit about, here's my concern with Trevor Lawrence. Is Urban Meyer going to screw him up? Because I can already see Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer has joined. What has he done so far? Well, he showed up on a wrestling stream. That was pretty cool for you. I thought that you
I was watching that live, and I was like, oh, yeah, there's Urban Meyer.
Oh, yeah, there's Urban Meyer. He's partaking in that. Yeah. That's what he did here.
He just gave Chris Jericho's laptop to beat up MJF with. I know I'm saying a lot of wrestling terms that a lot of you don't understand. Fine. Unless you watch wrestling. If Andrew Pasquini's watching this, he's loving this.
Here's my thing. He hired an offensive coordinator who had a bunch of,
I think it was a strength coach
or something like that had a bunch of sexual misconduct and things like that. Had to fire him like the next day. Once he got hired, people were like, what on earth are you doing? Okay.
Yeah.
Tim Tebow's on the roster as a tight end. DJ Chark. This is the part that really, really got it. Like, okay, it's one thing to motivate your people. He said to DJ Chark, you are a big man who is playing little. I need you to bulk up. I am afraid right now, Jared Bailey, for Trevor Lawrence, for everyone on this roster, because I really don't think Urban Meyer is a good coach at all at this point. And I don't know who to compare him to at this point. Someone who's had sustained success doing whatever is necessary, including hiring the worst people in the world to be your coaches at times, right? Because you get to
leading a college team that was full of arrests and an eventual convicted murderer while being led by a preacher. I mean, we need an ESPN 30 for 30 on that eventually.
And Urban Meyer went to Bill Belichick like, you need to draft Aaron Hernandez and get him out of here. Like he told Aaron Hernandez was like, I want to come back. And he was like, no way. No. So here's my concern, Jared. Trevor Lawrence, can his God-given talent overcome the absolute dumpster fire that the Jaguars are operating under as a head coach with a general manager, Trent Baalke, 49er fans? You know him very well. If you torn your ACL as a normal person, expect a call from Trent Baalke to see how you're doing and maybe if you're going to come in for a workout. Talk to me about Trevor Lawrence being there with the Jaguars and why Urban Meyer doesn't bother you that much, if at all.
So I'm going to compare this to the situation that Peyton Manning came into, because when Peyton Manning was drafted, Jim Mora was the head coach. And Jim Mora, it was a fine head coach, did not really know how to really work with Peyton, I think, and it wasn't really the right situation for Peyton. In the first couple of years, Colts didn't really have a lot of success. They fire Jim Mora, they hire Tony Dungy, and then the real Peyton Manning stood up. I think that we could see now. Obviously, I'm not wishing for 26 interceptions in the rookie year of Trevor Lawrence, nor do I think we'll get that. I think he's going to play well. I don't think that Jacksonville's going to have any sort of long-term success under Urban Meyer. I think that they'll win anywhere between 5 and 6 games this year. I don't think Urban Meyer will be there for very long. And then when they do find that next guy, we're going to see Trevor take an even bigger step. So I think he's going to play well under Urban Meyer. They're not going to find any sort of long-term success, but Trevor Lawrence will still be there playing well. And then whenever they bring in whoever that next guy is, I think we're going to see a transformation of sorts for Trevor. So I don't think he's going to be hindered by Urban Meyer. I hope to God he's not going to be hindered by Urban Meyer. But this is it is an interesting situation. And I can already see, let's say Trevor Lawrence throws 2 interceptions in a game. The Duval faithful are going to start chanting Tim Tebow's name, and it's going to be a whirlwind. That bringing in Tim Tebow was in a Florida team, bringing in Tim Tebow is the worst. That's like playing in Nazareth and bringing in Jesus Christ. Like, you can't.
But that's the cash grab. And that's what it's always been the entire time.
And I get it. Like, Jacksonville is the least profitable team in the NFL. They needed something to get revenue up. I get that. As in terms of a money move, sure. In terms of a player personnel move, horrible. So I think that was a stupid idea. It's not going to last long. I don't think Urban's going to last long there. I hope to God Tim Tebow won't be there very long. So we'll see. I do think Trevor's going to be successful regardless, and I think whoever is next in line to be the head coach will take him to an entire other level. So I don't think it's going to hinder him by too many standards, at least.
Okay, I just get worried because
that
Jaguars culture will swallow you up real quick, and all of a sudden you're Andrew Luck with wheels and nice luscious hair, and then you end up just being a guy who is resembling the guy from Remember the Titans. Let's move on. Okay. So we got about 15 more minutes. So, just so we don't keep everybody. Thank you guys for tapping in real quick too. Also, just make sure that you subscribe to Two Skinny Dudes YouTube channel as well. And make sure that you share this with anybody who is open to good football discussions. So 19, Carson Wentz, 18, Baker Mayfield, 17, Joe Burrow, 16, Ben Roethlisberger, 15, Derek Carr. So which of those do you want to attack first? I'm going to tell you this. Derek Carr's too high on this list for me.
Oh, see, I thought that I put Derek Carr too low on this list.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. So for me, Derek Carr is very much in that tier of Jimmy Garoppolo, Jared Goff, those sort of guys for me. Just based on the way that he plays, very much intermediate, never really takes shots down the field, wants to get the ball out of his hands quickly, needs a good offensive line, needs a good running game, I don't know. I'm just not as high in Derek Carr as everybody else is. Okay, so there was the 1 year with Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree. Derek Carr was an MVP candidate, and unfortunately, the last week of the season,
gets hurt,
broke his leg, something like that. And Matt McGloin, Penn State's
own Matt McGloin.
Yeah, Penn State's pride. Matt McGloin had to play, but with Derek Carr, I just see a guy who is a product of what he needs around him. And he's fine. 15 seems high, man. I think that Ben Roethlisberger, I think that Joe Burrow, I think that Carson Wentz even. I understand that Carson Wentz has had a few down years, honestly, at this point. But if you're asking me to bet on someone to bring to my team with higher upside, it's Carson Wentz, 100%. Now, I understand why you have him in 18. I understand. You can't really rank him too high based off the last few years that he's played. Plus, you've never seen him play for the Colts, so you don't know what's coming. Is he completely broken? Was it just the Eagles situation? That's all things that we're going to find out. Yeah. What I'm going to bet on is his athleticism, him being there with Frank Reich, him being there surrounded by those weapons, and a better offensive line, just a better culture. I feel like Derek Carr, and maybe I'm even proving your argument correct by saying this. I think Derek Carr's stuck in that horrible Raiders environment. Horrible. Just awful. I literally. So let's take a gander at what they did this offseason. offensive line was a huge strength for them.
And they cut all of them.
They got rid of everybody. They bring in Kenyon Drake to be a running back with Josh Jacobs. They signed John Brown. What are the Raiders doing? What are they? What is the thought process here? What are you building to? Your defense is a mess. You miss literally on almost every single pick. And again, this has nothing to do with Derek Carr. That's Mayock. Again, you can't just go from NFL Network to being a general manager, apparently. So let's just get that out of our mind, Jarrett. Just because we analyze the game doesn't mean that somebody's going to come calling for us to go ahead and start making picks for them.
Mark Davis might.
Well, maybe. Hey, look. I'll be the general manager and ruin the Raiders for
this is me putting my official application in for the Raiders general manager spot whenever it becomes available.
Mark, if you want somebody who's going to whiff on draft picks, I will do it for way less money. Much less money. Promise.
I'll do it for the league minimum.
I promise you. I'll do it for way less money. Do it for just like what I'm making based on what I'm making right now on like YouTube. I'll do that for you. Like honestly at this point. But I don't know if I'm probably proving your point at this point with Derek Carr and that horrible, horrible Raiders environment. I would probably take Joe Burrow over him. Baker Mayfield was actually excellent last year, and how much that has to do with Kevin Stefanski and that offense. Remember, Stefanski got sent over there, and people were like, well, what are the Browns doing? What has Kevin Stefanski ever done? Coach of the year.
Coach of the year, yeah.
Coach of the year, yeah. And he understood what he wanted to do. So I just find that part interesting. Ben Roethlisberger last year, look, we're at the end. We're at the end of this time here with Ben, clearly. This is it, probably this year. So that's fine if you want to put him over him. In the big moment, though, I don't even know if I really want Derek Carr over there but with Ben, honestly. That really is where I'm going to think about that. But I want to hear your thoughts about Derek Carr.
So for Derek Carr, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head. He's in a horrible situation. And even with – yes, Josh Jacobs is a good running back. They got a good offensive line. It's not like he was throwing to anybody spectacular last year. He still put up north of 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, only 9 picks, had a passer rating of 101.4. So we had a very good year last year. To me, this is going to be his final season in Vegas. I think that he's going to be that guy next year. I mean, this year it was, finding out where Carson Wentz is going to go. I think we're going to have the same conversations about Derek Carr next offseason. For me, he might have a little bit more of a down year now because he has nobody protecting him. And it's going to be who is he going to throw to? Yeah, Henry Ruggs is fast and John Brown's fast. What else can he give me? So,
but Henry, again, this talks about it is more about Mayock than it is him.
Yeah,
that's a horrible fit. If you wanted a wide receiver first, Henry Ruggs, you could have CeeDee Lamb.
You could have Jerry
Jeudy. You could have had Brandon Ayuk. You could have Justin Jefferson. I wanted Henry Ruggs for the 49ers because I thought of fit. Clearly, that's what the Raiders prioritized. But what's the fit with a quarterback who doesn't throw the ball downfield? That's my issue more than anything. And again, that has nothing to do with Derek Carr. I just wanted to get that off my chest.
Yeah. And then when it comes to, 16, 17, 18 in terms of the AFC North trio, you can honestly put them in any order, and I wouldn't argue with you too much. Ben is at the end, but he still had, despite the struggles in the final couple weeks of the season, was playing phenomenal football. His arm isn't what it used to be. I'm not here to argue that. It looked pretty good beginning of the season. As the season went on, got colder. The downfield passing took a back seat. That's understandable. So if you wanted to put Baker Mayfield or Joe Burrow, or both of them ahead of Ben, wouldn't argue with you there. Baker Mayfield had a really good year last year. And a lot of the argument for Baker Mayfield is, all right, well, this offense runs through Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Go back and watch that Tennessee game last year. Baker Mayfield, that was kind of him saying, yeah, I can ball too. And good for him for doing it. I love Baker Mayfield. Don't really love that he's in the same division as Pittsburgh, but Cleveland is going to be very good for a long time, and Baker Mayfield is a big part of that. And then Joe Burrow, he had nothing protecting him last year. Still balled out. Finally, it caught up with him when he ripped his knee up. But no, I think that Baker, I think that Joe Burrow, all going to climb up this list. I think Derek Carr could fall just because he's in a bad situation. Ben's probably going to be retired by the end by this time next year. So Carson Wentz, though. Carson Wentz is somebody very similar to Sam Darnold. Cannot wait to see him just get revenge on this league.
He's the wild card.
He is going to climb. If I had to bet on anybody climbing this list the most, it's Carson Wentz. I love Carson Wentz. You know how much I've defended Carson Wentz. I'm basically Dan Orlovsky Jr. when it comes to Carson Wentz.
Dan Orlovsky Jr. I love it.
So you give him a fantastic offensive line. You give him a fantastic running game with Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines. Now, their passing options, they're not great, but they're not terrible either. T.Y. Hilton comes back, Michael Pittman, they're both solid receivers. I would have liked to see them get another weapon in there. Zach Pascal's very good, though. Don't forget about Zach Pascal. Paris Campbell as well. I mean, they've got depth at least at receiver. They're not very top heavy, but they've got a good depth of receivers. So when it comes to that, they're fine. They were one of the best defensive teams in football last year as well. They did get a little bit of a makeover on the defensive front because they were kind of older at that position. But in terms of, all around teams, I mean, Indianapolis, they're primed to make a solid playoff run this year as long as everything goes well. I think putting Carson back with Frank Reich, where he played his best football in 2017, I think Carson Wentz is going to have a tremendous jump this year, and I'm excited to see it. So in terms of the wild card, like you said, I think Carson Wentz is going to climb the list the most.
Yeah, I'm with you. So to keep it moving, when you made this, did you make it before the Julio trade or after?
I made it before.
Before. Okay, so Matt Ryan's 14. Does that knock him down a little bit now that Julio Jones is not there? Or are we just talking about strictly the quarterback itself?
Yeah, I think it's strictly the quarterback itself. Matt Ryan doesn't really have much of a deep ball anymore, but he's still a guy that, Atlanta really relies on because that's all their offense is passing the ball, especially this coming year when God only knows who their running back's going to be. It looks like
Mike Davis. What do you mean? Quadzilla.
Yeah, that's great. He's ginormous. I've seen a lot of jack dudes who've sucked. So we'll see.
No, Mike Davis is actually pretty solid. It's just
Mike Davis is solid. Yeah, he's not running back one material.
But he's not built to be that. I mean, if you're going to take him in a fantasy league, you're fine with that because he's just going to be the guy who gets to work. But I would bet more that Javian Hawkins is going to wind up taking that job over eventually when they get a chance because they got him for nothing at the end of the draft. So this is the part that's pretty interesting to me because we got 4 and then we'll just dive right into the top 10 and try to nail this as quickly as possible because we're already coming up on an hour.
Yeah, that's fine.
Matt Ryan, Ryan Tannehill. So Matt Ryan 14, Ryan Tannehill 13, Kirk Cousins 12, Matthew Stafford 11. So Kirk Cousins and Ryan Tannehill, they're very, very, very similar to me.
Very similar. I agree.
And if you wanted to have Tannehill ahead of Cousins, that's fine. If you want to have Cousins over Tannehill, in my opinion, I'm fine with it. The Matthew Stafford one is really, 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 really cool. So let's talk about this real quick. So I posted a stat that I found on Reddit. Matthew Stafford has 74 career wins with the Detroit Lions. 38 required a game-winning drive.
That is absurd.
That is double the amount of Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, who are behind him with game-winning drives. Okay, so let's play devil's advocate, Jarrett. Oh, Matthew Stafford played so bad for 3 quarters that he needed to do that in the 4th quarter. Oh, his numbers go down as the game goes on, the crunch time. He throws a lot of interceptions, and he has the same amount of interception rate as Jared Goff. No, it's the Detroit Lions. Why doesn't anybody see that? Does he play defense? Does he do the play calling? Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford has never had an 1,000-yard rusher. I don't believe.
Which is absurd.
And I think the Lions haven't had it even dating before him, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't remember the last time they had a 1,000-yard rusher.
I like Matthew Stafford at 11, but it's just when I posted that stat, ooh, man, did I get pushback because I continue to bang the table on this narrative for 49er fans. Let's bring it back to that. Mm-hmm. When you tell me you own the Rams, you own the Jared Goff-led Rams. You don't own the Matthew Stafford-led Rams with Sean McVay not having to tell Matthew Stafford where the protection should go, where the pressure is coming from. He gets to get in his bag and be the play caller that he was last year with a quarterback with immense arm talent. Immense. That's the best word I could use. Kirk Cousins at Tannehill. That's the one right there. That's kind of flip-flop right there. You could do that. But talk to me about Matt Ryan. I think we kind of touched on. Ryan Tannehill, Kirk Cousins, Matthew Stafford. Talk to me about your rationale from 11 to 13.
Matthew Stafford is going to go absolutely off this season.
I hate it.
Here's the thing. I'm not going to be surprised if we see an MVP candidate type year from Matthew Stafford. Would not be surprised if we get 4,500 yards, 35 touchdowns from Matthew Stafford. This is by far the best offense he's ever been a part of. He's got a good defense finally. So putting him there, I think the Rams are going to be fantastic. Now, with Tannehill and Cousins, I agree. They're incredibly similar. The thing that I like Cousins more, simply because, and this might be unfair, the offense in Tennessee has largely run through Derrick Henry. Kirk Cousins, yes, they have Dalvin Cook, but
I was about to
Look
say
at
they run it through Dalvin Cook. That
Look-
offense, what is it? Who's the guy that's over there? That's the same guy that's basically Shanahan? Kubiak.
Yeah.
Sort of the same sort of offense. So they do.
Yeah.
So both of them. So again, you make a
A lot
good
of them are
point. Both of them are
Yeah.
exactly the same when it comes to what they're asked to do.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes the conversation so interesting. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, it's okay. When we go back to, even Kirk Cousins in Washington, when he dragged a team to a division title, the whole "you like that" thing.
Threw for 4 bands every year.
4,000 yards every year. Washington franchised him twice. Even then, we're like, we're good. We've got who the hell did they have at the time when they cut him? I honestly do not remember who was their quarterback when.
Well, they franchise tagged him 3 times. They just weren't going to pay him what the Vikings paid him.
I'm trying to think of who took over for Kirk after he left. That's going to boggle my mind.
It's a good question.
I'm going to worry about that later. Yeah. So, no, Kirk to me, I just think has more of – he does more for the Vikings than Tannehill does for the Titans, where, yes, Dalvin Cook's fantastic, and a lot of the offense runs through Dalvin Cook. More so for Tennessee, does Derrick Henry run that offense. And a lot of that play action is able to get set up because, Derrick Henry and the entire defense is biting on a play action, assuming it's going to Derrick Henry. So it's by a hair, I think. And Tannehill played great last year, 33 touchdowns to only 7 interceptions. I think Kirk had 35 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. So, to me, both of them very similar in terms of how their offenses are run. But I would give the edge to Kirk Cousins. And like I said, Matthew Stafford's going to go absolutely off. I'm excited to see it.
What year was it that Kirk left?
I want to say it was 2018 was his first year in Minnesota.
Let me take a look. So 2016 he was there, 2017, 2018. So 20
Was it Case Keenum? I feel like it was Case Keenum. Jesus.
No, so Alex Smith, that's Alex Smith.
Was it Alex Smith that year?
Yep.
Yes, it would have been because they traded for him. They traded for him because the Chiefs started Patrick Mahomes that year, so they acquired. Yes, okay, it was Alex Smith. Okay.
Yep, Alex Smith. So with Kirk, look, 49er fans, tired of people trying to tell me that Jimmy Garoppolo is better than Kirk Cousins or Ryan Tannehill. Can we just stop it? Can we just stop it a little bit, honestly?
So can you be a fan of a team and admit that somebody else is better?
No problem with that. And it doesn't mean that Jimmy Garoppolo is not capable of leading this team to many victories. It's not what I'm saying. But if you're telling me in 2019 you get to drop one player and drop one player into the situation, let's just say you take Jimmy Garoppolo away from the 2019 team and you take Kirk Cousins or Ryan Tannehill, 49ers win the Super Bowl in 2019. Ooh, I'm sorry. Yeah, my bad. I just caught a bunch of sun today, so
I'll even do you one better. You take away Jimmy Garoppolo and replace him with Jared Goff. That your 49ers are wearing a ring.
That one I might push you back a little bit, but with those two
guys,
okay. All right. Look, we're already at an hour. Let's do these 10. Let's do these last 10. Okay. So I don't think anybody's gonna argue with you with Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. We could leave them at 1 and 2.
Yep.
And you know what? 3, Russell Wilson. Let's leave it. Let's leave it like that. I'm fine with that. Okay. 10, Lamar Jackson, unanimous MVP. You got him behind guys like Herbert, Prescott, Murray. Is it just the passing? That's it.
Yeah. If he develops a consistent downfield passing game and is consistently accurate in doing so, then yes, he will. That's the only problem I've ever had with Lamar Jackson and people defending him is the fact that, and we can go back to the Greg Roman thing all we want. Sure, he's not a good downfield thrower, and I'm okay saying that. Like, I'm not saying he's not a great football player. He's one of the best football players in the world right now in terms of playing pure quarterback position. He needs to learn to throw the ball better. And once he does that, he'll go up the list. Till then, since the MVP year, he's gotten progressively worse because defenses are figuring out, let's send the house on 1st and 2nd down. Teams like the Chiefs, teams like the Bills, teams like the Titans when they beat them. Send the house on 1st and 2nd down. You can even throw Pittsburgh in this too. Make him throw to beat us. Lamar Jackson hasn't beaten Pittsburgh yet. He hasn't beaten Buffalo in terms of the playoff game. Hasn't beaten Kansas City yet. He finally did beat Tennessee in a playoff game. But in terms of Lamar Jackson has proven that he can lead the Ravens to beat good teams. They can't beat great teams. And we can take out, we can look at the MVP year when they beat New England and whatnot. And we can look at the Seattle game. He completed 9 passes against Seattle that game. Like, that was a large part because Marcus Peters in his first game as a Raven took one to the house. So A lot of this is because his passing is subpar. If that gets better, I will gladly put him up the list and admit that he's gotten better. Till then, I'm keeping him at 10.
I've got an issue.
Okay.
Give me Kyler over Dak.
I wouldn't argue too much with you there. Honestly, it was splitting hairs between those two. Now, this is where I wanted to get to, because anybody who's followed me for a long time has known that I have butchered Dak a lot. And it's a shame that it took him getting hurt for me to see how valuable he is to that offense.
And what he did for them?
Yeah. So, Dak Prescott, if you somehow see this, I'm sorry. So,
there you go.
I was wrong about Dak. Now, that's not to say that I think he's elite. I don't think he is. But he is better than what I've said about him. When that first quarter and a half of the season last year, when he's throwing for 5 bands,
he was about to set the record. He was about to set the record.
He was about to throw for like 6,000 yards if he stayed on base and doing that. Like, that's absurd. So the only reason that they were even in games and won the one that they did while he was starting was because of him. So Dak Prescott, yeah, I think it's fine saying he's a top 10 quarterback. I wouldn't argue, though, if you said that Kyler should be above him. Kyler Murray's fantastic. I might as well touch on Kyler Murray. I think he's just a better version of Lamar Jackson. He can throw deep and run. So Kyler Murray, to me, is an emerging star. I think he's a star already. So I love Kyler Murray. Hope that he can finally, start getting a little bit more help and getting into the playoffs. I know that's not what you want. You're not worried about it as long as Cliff Kingsbury is there.
You know what's funny though is you're right though. Honestly, I heap a bunch of praise on Kyler Murray, and the only reason that you discussed the Arizona Cardinals is because of Kyler Murray. That's it. Yep. I just want to make sure that I make this point clear, as I'm banging the table. Cliff Kingsbury is awful, and the only reason that the Cardinals are anything or any sort of thorn in the 49ers side is because of Kyler Murray. When Kyler Murray's injury happened, all of a sudden that team starts to lose games. That's how valuable Kyler Murray is. 49er fans better pray that they never find a day that a great play caller gets paired up with Kyler Murray, because that is death, honestly. The only reason that everything is falling the way it is because Cliff Kingsbury is awful. When I watch Kyler Murray play, I watch him dragging a team through the mud because of how bad Cliff Kingsbury is. Yeah. When you look, and I'm going to point this out one last time, and this is it. I'm putting this point to bed. Go on Next Gen Stats. Go ahead and take a look at how many routes DeAndre Hopkins ran from the left side that were 3-yard outs, and get disgusted because it makes no sense. DeAndre Hopkins is literally one of the most versatile wide receivers in this game. Put him in the slot. Put him outside. Put him in the backfield. Do something. If you're some sort of offensive genius like Cliff Kingsbury is supposed to be. He's basically a Bond villain who doesn't know how to play call. He's got like 7 play calls on there, and 3 of them are Kyler run around and make a play. So, that's why I'm not scared of Arizona. Arizona's going to give us fits just based on Kyler Murray. Yeah. But God help the league and the 49ers the day that Kyler Murray gets paired with a play caller who actually knows what he's doing. And that's why him at 9, hey, look, I'm going to get spicy now. Now let's get spicy. You got Justin Herbert 7. I got Kyler Murray ahead of him. You got Tom Brady at 6. I get that because he just won a Super Bowl. But if we're talking about where we're moving forward
right now,
I think that I would like to have Kyler right now. Just because, Brady's only got 1 or 2 more years, right?
No, that's fair.
Maybe, so that's different. So we're not talking about that. But Kyler Murray's a little too low. I'd take him over Dak. Probably take him over Herbert at this point. Herbert's first year, that's fine, and that's great. He's going to be amazing. But I really think that people are sleeping on how good Kyler Murray is and how much he does for the Cardinals. And that's really what it is. Like again, the Hail Murray, if that doesn't happen, the Cardinals lose like 5-6 straight games, honestly. And they beat the Bills. So again, I don't want to heap too much praise on an opponent. But Kyler Murray, if he ever gets paired with another play caller that's actually really good, not a good look for the league. And I think that much of him. And the other thing is him and Russell Wilson, you're going to be able to teach. You're going to use their tape to teach how to slide, how to never take any hits. And that's another thing. Kyler Murray runs like the bad kid who took something and you can't get a hand on it.
Kyler Murray runs like he makes this noise when he runs. Like he's like, hee. Yeah, right. He runs like that.
Right, like you're running around trying to get him, and basically NFL defenders are the older parents trying to corral the 5-year-old in the house, and they're trying to. That's exactly what Kyler looks like, honestly. So yeah, exactly, man. And God help if they actually put personnel around him, they actually give him a play caller. Man, I think Kyler Murray just at 9, it just feels
that's
low.
fair. Anybody watching who is good with Premiere Pro or any sort of editing thing, I beg of you, please, for me and Jay, please dub a Stewie Griffin laugh over a long Kyler Murray run. That's all I ask. It could be a Peter Griffin laugh too. I think that would be even funnier. Just anything like where he's just running, that's all I want.
Mama.
That is all I want. So if anybody watching is good with any sort of editing thing, please, that's all I want.
All right, let's bring it home.
Yep.
6, 5, and 4. Unless you want to add more about Kyler Murray.
I'll touch on Justin Herbert real quick.
Go ahead, go for it.
Fantastic. People who want to use the 1 year argument are the same people who put Lamar Jackson number 1 after his one good year too. So I'm not even going to address that. Look, okay. Justin Herbert is going to be a star for years to come. He's going to have a better offensive line, great weapons, a new head coach who's defensive minded. That defense is going to be really good. So I think the Chargers are going to be a playoff team this year. I think Justin Herbert's probably going to approach 35, 40 touchdowns this year. He's going to be phenomenal. He's only going to keep getting better.
Well, my thing is I'm putting my money where my mouth is. In a high-stake dynasty league, when we did a startup, I chose Justin Herbert over Lamar Jackson. And the group chat lit up. And they were like, wow, how dare you? And I said, listen, I got Lamar Jackson in a bunch of leagues. I know what I got. Let's diversify this. But I really believe that eventually down the line, Justin Herbert throwing for how many yards that he did. He didn't even start the season. Come on, man. And also, here's the other thing. He was literally in the worst spot possible. That offensive scheme that Anthony Lynn ran.
That coaching stage, just mention Anthony Lynn. That's going to be cancer to the ears of Chargers fans forever.
Literally, there was a time where Justin Herbert's at the goal line, and he decides to call a play where Justin Herbert's like putting his head down, trying to get crushed by like 3 guys at the line. And it's just, you sit there and you're like, my goodness, I know you're not going to be here next year. But God help this kid out, man. Stop it. And especially when you think about, okay, last year, the Chargers lost a bunch of games like they do in the last few seconds, Chargers way. Keenan Allen, Hunter Henry, Mike Williams, get the ball to one of those guys. Get the ball out to those guys. Austin Eckler, like that's the portion of that got me scared. But now Justin Herbert has somebody. Now it's Lombardi, right, from the Saints. Is their new OC?
My Lombardi, yeah. Yeah,
so they're gonna run a lot more of those routes that they ran for Alvin Kamara, which are those choice routes where Alvin Kamara basically comes out of the backfield, goes to his steps right there by the line of scrimmage, and chooses a way to break, and you're not going to be able to cover it. So, honestly, Justin Herbert's set up for a lot of success, honestly. But
now, speaking of Austin Eckler, not to brag about my contact list, but Austin Eckler does live in my contact list, as does Christian Kirk. So, I mean, maybe future Two Skinny Dudes guess Austin Eckler or Christian Kirk. I mean,
Austin Eckler, I would love to talk about why he's on every single one of my fantasy rosters at this point. And you know what's good about him is that he actually embraces all that. He talks about like, you need to draft me. But
I will shoot Austin Eckler a text tomorrow and we will see what we can do.
Perfect. So let's bring it home because I think we agree 1, 2, 3 is fine. No real issues. 4, 5, 6. Is Deshaun Watson going to play this year?
That's the biggest thing. It's the biggest question mark. He is still a quarterback in the NFL, and I wasn't going to not put him on the list because he's fantastic. So I don't know, man. I mean, it looks like Houston's gearing up to not have him. They draft Davis Mills, they bring in Tyrod Taylor. It looks like they're gearing up to play this year without him. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think any of us really do. It's been relatively silent on the end of that whole case right now. I'm not going to speculate because I'm not a personal investigator. I'm not a prosecutor. I don't know what happened. So we'll see. But regardless, he's still one of the 5 best quarterbacks in this league.
Okay. And Josh Allen at 5 with Deshaun Watson at 4. So I don't have a problem with that. Deshaun Watson's done it for so many years. So I'm with that. Yeah. But a lot of people wouldn't agree with that. Josh Allen was incredible last year. Was amazing. So the trajectory, I guess the question that I have is, let's just say in a fantasy world, Deshaun Watson is there in Houston. There was never any trade requests. There was never any of these allegations or anything like that.
Yeah.
is there that much of a difference between Deshaun Watson and Josh Allen?
Yeah, they're so similar in the way they play. Both can make plays with their legs. Both have cannons for arms. They had similar stat lines last year too. I mean, Josh Allen went 37-10 with 4,500 passing yards, completed nearly 70% of his passes. Deshaun Watson, I think, went 33-7. The thing that made me put Deshaun Watson over the top is, who's he throwing to? Who's he playing with? A little bit better than what Josh Allen has. That's not to take anything away from Josh Allen because he's incredible. Obviously, I have him at 5 for a reason. He's remarkable.
But let me run down Deshaun Watson's targets at the end of the year.
Okay.
Brandon Cooks was there for a large portion of the year, but I believe it was week 17. Kiki Cutesy
was the number one guy.
One guy, yeah. A guy, Craig Hansen, not Chris Hansen. Yeah. Jordan Akins.
Wasn't Randall Cobb there for a minute too?
Cobb was there too, and he still led the league in passing last year,
which is absurd.
I understand that game script has a lot to do with that. Obviously, you're behind a ton because the defense isn't, I get that. But still, I think that the last few weeks you saw him perform with receivers who, quite frankly, need to be at the end of a roster, if not even on them at this point. Randall Cobb is still unsigned. Nothing against Brandon Cooks. I don't think he just played the last few weeks because, he always winds up injured.
Yeah.
Hansen, Jordan Akins. Ooh, my goodness. Duke Johnson, David Johnson. Ooh, man. You could make the argument that Deshaun Watson, even with DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller, he's been dealing with a little bit more as far as like personnel goes around him.
And the fact, I think that makes his case even more impressive because for the amount that he was passing and having to try to will them back into games, he only threw 7 interceptions last year. Like, that's absurd. Passer rating of 112.4. Like, Deshaun Watson was literally doing all he possibly could. And obviously they still came up short in a ton of games because of the lack of talent on both sides of the ball. But they may have went, 4-12 last year? Damn sure wasn't Deshaun Watson's fault.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. So, to put a bow on it, you got number 1, Patrick Mahomes. Number 2, Aaron Rodgers. Number 3, Russell Wilson. Number 4 is, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head,
Deshaun Watson.
Number 5, Josh Allen. Number 6, Tom Brady. Number 7, Justin Herbert. Number 8, Dak Prescott. Number 9, Kyler Murray. And number 10,
Lamar Jackson.
Okay. Oh, this is a great discussion. And you know what, man? I don't know why we have to say this again while we wrap up, and I'm going to let you, close it out and everything as well, too. Why can't we have a discussion with someone else's opinions on Twitter without it turning into, oh, my God, you're a moron. You have no idea what you're talking about. So, look, let me for the guy who wants to yell at people on Twitter that works at AutoZone or wherever it is that you work, what makes you the authority over someone else that has an opinion? That's my question.
Point, Jay.
That's always my question. That's it. At the end of the day, any sort of list that comes out from anybody, and I'm not just talking about Jarrett, is opinions. Okay? You pick it apart. You make sure you give your arguments. But the whole idea that just because someone has an opinion, they shouldn't be allowed to state that opinion or their opinion is invalid. Listen, we're all guys just talking about ball. That's it. None of us are doing this for a living. We're just putting in work, but it should always be respectful. And that's the part that I always have a problem with. I'm big on matching energy. So if you come into one of my posts and you're popping wild, talking crazy in a way that you would never probably say to my face.
Yep.
I know Michelle Obama says when they go low, you go high. Now, when you go low, I go lower. How about that? And that's the way I'm going to start thinking about it. But honestly, it shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be those discussions. It shouldn't be disrespectful in any way. Because at the end of the day, I have an opinion. You have an opinion. The guy who works his 9 to 5 on Twitter that's talking crazy, he has his opinion. Those are all just opinions at the end of the day. That's it. That's it.
No, and there are a fair number of people who have good interactions with, because I do a lot of these lists, especially in the offseason when there's nothing else to talk about. And obviously we had a big trade today, so that was a little bit more to talk about. I didn't expect that to happen. But there are, there's always going to be trolls. And, the one thing that, at least I've learned from doing this is you're never going to please everybody. Like, it's just not possible. And there's always going to be, regardless of what I put out, there's always going to be, the Twitter trolls, and that just comes with the territory of doing this. So I'm never really fazed by it. I mean, now I used to be. I'm not gonna lie, I did. You know, when I first started doing this, I was like, oh man, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe this guy from AutoZone's right. You know, maybe I shouldn't talk about football anymore. But no, there is a line though. I mean, when I put out a list and people just assume that I'm racist because I had Jalen Hurts 35. That's just an automatic block for you, homie. Like we're not gonna roll with that. But no, it doesn't really faze me. If you want to be like, let's see, can I read one off? It's any of these, saying I'd take Garoppolo over Wentz and Cousins. Bum's my favorite word when people like criticize. It's just funny. I don't know why.
I wouldn't take Garoppolo over Cousins.
Not sure as hell wouldn't.
Well, whatever. So, again, my opinion.
So the thing is that, like, yeah, we can have discussions, we can disagree without it being hateful, and especially now, like, there's just no room for hate. I don't understand why we got to add, like, for something that we all collectively enjoy. I think we can disagree with people without it turning into you're an idiot, you're a dumbass, you don't know what you're talking about. We can mutually disagree and make our own valid points without it turning into something spiteful. And no, that's not saying that everybody who sees a list interacts is spiteful. They're not. There's a lot of good interactions that I have, but there are a lot of people who who choose the hateful side, and that's fine. I just don't reply to them. If you come at me with a solid argument in a respectful manner, then yeah, we can talk about it. But no, I think that especially in the world today, there's enough hate already. I'm not going to let it interfere with football because it's something that we all love, and it's something that we should be able to collectively rejoice around and have separate opinions without it being a controversy. So that's why I do this, and it's fun. So there's going to be more to come. Yep. So as always, thank you for tuning in to Two Skinny Dudes. Stuff coming from me. Trivia Bowl 3 will be later this week. Maybe Jason will be a guest. Maybe he won't. We'll see. He'll be on one. He'll be on one soon. I promise. I'm going to make him go on one. So Trivia Bowl 3 will be later this week. I'll announce the contestants at some point this week. Tomorrow morning, 7 a.m., Sports Illustrated, Top 10 Ben Roethlisberger Moments by yours truly. So if you want to click on that, it means a lot to me. So that's pretty much all I've got is the Ben Roethlisberger piece. Trivia Bowl 3 later this week. And we'll see if anybody can beat Matt Verderame because he's won it twice in a row. So we'll see if I get any more. If I get any more video, like highlight reel moments from Thor Nystrom, if he's on it, because God Almighty, he is one of my favorite people on the face of this. One of my favorite people in this business. He
definitely has the best name in the world too, and he's one of the first. He's one of the first check marks that ever followed me back, honestly. So that's also why he's got a soft spot for me as well.
Yeah, Thor is one of the most entertaining human beings you'll ever interact with. So if he is on the show, by all means, tune in. If not for me, for Thor alone, because you're gonna get a funny moment. And if you get a chance for me to prove that to you, you can go over to my Twitter page. I posted about a 2-minute video. These are 2 shows that we've done of Trivia Bowl. Thor's been on both of them. He's given me 2 minutes of just excellent, hilarious stuff. So if you need a reason to watch Trivia Bowl, it's so much fun. It's something to do during the offseason when there's not a lot to talk about. Play along in the comments if you'd like. If you want to donate to us on Patreon, by all means, do that too. Give me presents. So yeah, it's a good time. And obviously, we're going to keep doing Two Skinny Dudes throughout the offseason as well. But Jay, I will let you plug your stuff, and then we'll get on out of here.
Yeah, just make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you drop a like. Make sure that you drop a comment. That helps with the algorithm, and it helps us get seen as well too. So this week, a lot of stuff popping up with appearances, and I was on Croc's podcast last week and also today about the Julio Jones stuff. So make sure that you subscribe to his stuff as well, because he made sure to shout us out when we were on the show, because we were talking through the podcast, and he was like, in the Two Skinny Dudes, right? And I was like, oh yeah, I was like, and Jarrett, that's your boy or whatever. So Croc, but yeah, the sprint right option. Make sure that you guys just subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's basically where you're gonna find everything as well. But subscribe to sprint right option wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, anything like that. And yeah, I mean, that's it pretty much. We'll see you this week eventually with all that stuff.
Before you go, did that podcast with Croc already come out, or is it releasing?
Yeah, so Croc Talk was actually out for the week. So basically what he did was he did up and coming receivers. So we talked about AJ Brown before the Julio trade. We talked about DK Metcalf and Justin Jefferson. And then he asked me to bring up people who I felt were overlooked. That's where my DJ Moore stuff came from. It's a great episode. Honestly, when you get a chance to listen to Croc talk about wide receiver play, I was really happy to be there because wide receivers are my thing. That's the thing that I love to talk about. Again, my non-football playing self, I can still see when guys are winning, with routes, and that doesn't take you playing football to understand those things. So wide receiver is a big passion for me, and I love talking about it. So check that out. And Croc's episode today was about Julio Jones and about what to expect from AJ Brown and things like that. But I'm good to go. And Jarrett, this, as always, man, this is always great to do this with you every week, man.
Always is, my friend. It's been a big boost for me as well, as everybody knows. So it's always fun to do stuff like this. So appreciate y'all tuning in as always. Appreciate everybody who commented and whatnot. So we'll see you guys within the week. It's Two Skinny Dudes.
Later.